My wife has been co-sleeping with our 3-month-old since she was just a few days old. The standard medical advice of swaddling and bassinet did not work for our daughter. We are reluctant to talk about our sleeping strategy with our pediatrician and friends for fear of being accused of putting our daughter at risk. All that being said, what seems to be evolutionarily sound baby and child sleeping methods? There's a ton here. There's a little bit of this retained in the parenthood chapter of our hunter-gatherers of our book, but we had to take a lot of it out. And I will say that the fear-mongering in modern medical practice around co-sleeping is that. It's fear-mongering for many millennia, and I guess it's going to have to be more like several hundred thousands of years. Babies have been co-sleeping with their mothers.
For all of the millennia.
It actually makes the sleep of both of you better. So, for all of the sleep deprivation and sleep problems that new parents report, sleep with your baby, and no one has to get up to feed the baby when the baby gets hungry in the middle of the night, and everyone is happier. And healthier as well. I think I know that I am compelled that I think that there are these stories that people report about, well, what if you roll over in the middle of the night and crush your baby? It's happened.
There is actually a solution to that.
Don't be drunk when you go to bed.
Don't be a drunk.
Yeah. So and some other drugs too. But basically, if you've got a baby who is still at the breast, and that's a big part of why you're co-sleeping with them, you shouldn't be drinking or taking drugs such that you can actually lose consciousness enough that you can roll over on your child and suffocate them. This should be obvious. So, you really shouldn't be drinking much at all at the point that you're breastfeeding. But like during late pregnancy, a little bit, it's not a big deal. But if you're,
I don't know that there's any evidence that a glass of wine or even two has an impact, and I think,
right.
Frankly,
but every day, you don't need to be doing that every day, right? So a couple times a week, a couple glasses of wine, probably fine.
Yep.
Unless you're such a lightweight that actually makes you pass out, and then if someone's going to put, you pass out, there's a baby in your bed, that's not okay.
Right.
Obviously,
but we have
that's not okay.
a long history with alcohol at the beer and wine level.
Right.
Long history.
Right.
So anyway, we're well adapted to it.
Yeah. So swaddling and bassinet, I'd never even heard this as standard medical advice. I'm not sure we ever talked to any doctors about what we were doing because we just knew we didn't trust them. But we had, you developed a swaddle, but not for sleeping because we always just co-slept. But to, when fussy. And it
was a nap thing. It was the original burrito boy.
The original burrito boy. Yeah, you had a folding technique.
Yep.
That would really console a fussy boy, and neither of our boy, one of them a little more than the others, but we had just easy children, in part because they knew we were always there for them, because we were holding them almost all of the time early on. But the original burrito boy approach that you had that enabled you to put them down safely really did calm them down. And I'd never heard of it as a standard medical advice.
Yeah.
What you don't want to do for a newborn that's helpless and that knows in some part of its core self that it's helpless is put them down alone and leave. If they wake up and they recognize that they're alone and they make little whimpering sounds and no one comes, they're going to be terrified. And they're going to have the sense that no one's got their back and that terror is maybe a way of life. Don't leave your newborn terrified. That seems kind of obvious.
So I would add a couple things. One, as with the case with orthodontia, we have a dumb way of viewing this problem. Right, it's a sleep issue. It's not a sleep issue, right? Sleep is the place where the issue crops up. But to the extent that you are creating a simulation of having been abandoned and therefore vulnerable to being eaten by a predator, you're creating anxiety and you're breaking the normal attachment that is at the core of healthy adult psychology. And so the point is, we're really talking about something that is going to have an influence on whether or not you need to seek psychological help, whether you need to have your anxiety treated, right? We're talking about the question of creating secure attachment. And the problem, the one fly in the ointment. The obvious answer is do what your ancestors did, and that meant sleeping with the baby present, where
Right.
you're communicating with them and they're communicating with you, and it's not waking you up and it's not disturbing the sleep that you need,
Right.
because none of those things make any sense, and evolution wouldn't have inflicted them on you.
Right.
The fly in the ointment is modern environments may throw curveballs that disrupt your ability to just simply easily instantiate an environment
Absolutely.
like your ancestors had. And one of them we do point out in our book, I think, a really excellent piece of advice that could easily be missed, and in fact is missed, I think, by everybody, is pumping breast milk is a really cool, liberating thing. But if you think of this as purely food, and therefore one bottle is interchangeable with the other, then you're missing the fact that mother and baby are communicating about what time of day it is hormonally all the time. And so the idea of, okay, maybe you can avail yourself of a breast pump, and that can free you to do things that your female ancestors wouldn't have been able to do because they were pinned down by the need to lactate on demand. However, do it in this way that is sensitive to the time you pumped the breast milk, so that you're not delivering erroneous signals of it's, midday, time to be active to your baby in the middle of the night.
Yeah. And I mean, another reason to co-sleep, right? So, if you're not co-sleeping and you're pumping breast milk, and you have a cool relationship with a father who wants to be as involved as possible and is going to be the one to get up with the crying baby occasionally, sometimes maybe all the time in the middle of the night, and pull pumped breast milk out of the freezer and feed the baby with it, the problem is going to be that probably mom didn't pump that breast milk in the middle of the night.
Right.
And so the breast milk that's being fed to the baby is now midday breast milk, time to be awake.
Right.
Which is going to antagonize both baby and dad and make him less likely to continue to do this, and make both parents have the sense of like, oh, I've got a fussy baby. Isn't early babyhood sleep deprivation land? Isn't this terrible? How hard is this? How do people do this? And it's like, well, okay. Take some of the novelty out as much as you can, and try then.
Yep.
And I will say there's a great book called The Anthropology of Childhood, which is the only source that I've found that actually pulls together all of the anthropological evidence that we have of how childhood is treated in different cultures. And it doesn't do early childhood much, because that's just a harder thing to get to. And certainly until women were being ethnologists in the field, no men were being allowed into that information at all. So it's a pretty sparse anthropological record, but I recommend it if you're interested in these sorts of questions. Hey guys, that was a clip from our monthly private Q&A that you can get access to at my Heather Hying's Patreon. And you can also get access there to all of the past paid subscriber content. So please consider joining us there.
Did you mention that these private Q&As are the key to living a better life and living to tell the tale?
I forgot to do that. These private Q&As are in fact the key to living a better life and what?
Living to tell the tale.
Living to tell the tale. Go ahead, live to tell the tale. Join us there.
See ya.